Hello and welcome back to the Decaf Bubble podcast with me, Abby. This is a podcast about creativity, and today we're going to be talking about creative blocks, specifically the creative block of perfectionism. I recently put a question sticker on my story saying, "What is your creative block?" Because I feel like I have pretty much spent 12 years analysing creative blocks, my own creative blocks, trying to figure out how to get through them. I've read so many books, I have done so much inner work, and I honestly feel like, I'm pretty good with creative blocks now. So I got a few responses to this sticker, and when I started to write responses to them, as I'd planned to, just put on my story some responses, I actually just felt like, you know what, my brain is wanting to go way deeper into this than this space is allowing, because I was just starting to write out pages and pages of different thoughts and different views, different directions you could take with it, for each of them. So I thought, why don't I create a little podcast series? So here's the first episode. I'm going to respond to the person who said that they have crippling perfectionism, sad face, and I just want to say I really relate to you. I understand, I get it. I'm just going to say from the get-go, I also am a perfectionist. And so I'm very familiar with that experience. To be honest, let's start with this. I think all great artists have a inner perfectionist. And so we're going to start off with that. Don't think of yourself as a perfectionist. Think of yourself as having an inner perfectionist. And this inner perfectionist is there for a reason. They serve a purpose. They serve a good purpose. We'll get more into what I mean by that in a little bit. But I want to set the scene a little bit by saying that, I'm going to tell you something that my dad always tells me. And this is funny because he pretty much, anytime I'm going through something, he'll say this, and he doesn't really remember how often he said it, so he'll tell me like he's telling me for the first time every time he says it, and I kind of love that. I used to get on my nerves so much, but now I've just started to love it, because there's something so soothing about somebody giving you the same piece of wisdom over and over again, to the point where it's just locked in, it's there, it's part of my belief system, and I'm going to tell you what it is. So he always says he went to see this yogic master of some type. I can't remember his name. He went to see a lecture of his, and in this lecture, this yogic master said that when you are healing something, when you're approaching healing a problem, an issue in the body, in the mind, in the spirit, there's always a twofold aspect to this healing. The healing is twofold. So on the one side, you have how to deal with the root of the issue, what's causing it. And then on the other side, you have some kind of immediate relief, some kind of soothing or short-term solution that's just as important as the long-term solution. So an example would be I don't know, if you have some kind of allergic reaction, the short-term solution is putting some kind of soothing balm on your skin that's gonna relieve the symptoms. And then the long-term solution is figuring out what you're allergic to, right? It's like, why did that even happen? And maybe is there like a deeper a misalignment that I can find like a long-term solution to? And the reason that this is so important to know that both are important, that both are equal, is because when we're going through something, like quite often my dad will say this to me when I'm feeling really anxious. If you're like in a state of anxiety in that moment, you feel like, okay, well, I have to change my whole life. Like I need to rearrange 10 million things so that my life is good, so that I can feel better, so that I'm not anxious. And yeah, it's true that maybe when you're anxious, there are some like deeper systemic things that you could change about your life that would prevent you feeling so anxious. You know, maybe you're in the wrong job or whatever. But in the moment that you're super anxious, there's no point in trying to do that long-term solution without first finding some immediate relief. So why am I saying this in this episode? I'm going to tell you both the long-term solution and the immediate relief to this creative block and in the future to any other creative block that I talk about on the podcast. So this kind of speaks to how I approach everything. There's the inner work, the long-term work, which has long-term compounding results. And then there's the surface level solution, which is like, you know, you can apply it immediately. Okay, hopefully you're still with me and that makes sense. So I'm going to move on to perfectionism. So we're talking about perfectionism. I'm going to start off with how to just deal with perfectionism on a surface level. Like how to immediately reduce your perfectionism on the spot. Okay? And bearing in mind, I'm a perfectionist, or rather I have a strong inner perfectionist, and I use this a lot. Like I use what I'm about to tell you regularly. I would say pretty much everything I do, I use this for. Even this podcast I'm recording, I have applied this principle to be able to do it. Okay, so I'm going to give you 2 mantras, and these mantras are based on, or rather they are harnessing your willpower. So they're only going to work using willpower. If there's a deeper reason that's holding you back, we'll look at that later, right? But if willpower is going to be enough here, then these mantras will work beautifully. So they're very much mind over matter, okay? The first mantra is, I give myself permission to be shit. I give myself permission to be shit. So the reason that this works for me is because I have a strong belief when I go into things that everything has to be good, and sometimes it's not going to be good. Sometimes it's not going to start off good. Sometimes you're in a beginner phase of something, or sometimes you're in the early stage of a project and you just need to let the stuff come out. Just let it be shit. Write a bad first draft. Do a bad scratch performance. Whatever it is. If you give yourself permission to be shit, it's likely that you will diffuse the tension of the part of you that just wants it to be so good and just can't bear it not being good. Like for long enough to get some space to do the thing. And as I said, like all of that, there's inner work that you can do around that. But if you're just relying on pure willpower, this will take you a certain amount of the way. I have used this mantra many times. I used to use it quite a lot before a performance. So I would be nervous, and I would have rehearsed and prepared for a performance, and then in those moments before I went on stage, I would just tell myself, I give you permission to be shit. You don't have to be good. You don't have to be good. And it would just make me relax. It would just regulate my nervous system a little bit. It would just give me this permission that I'm just a human. I might not be good tonight. I might be great one day. Cool. Tonight I don't have to be good. I can be shit, and I'm not gonna die. It's not the end of the world. There's no lion chasing me. Very often what happens is when you give yourself this permission, you end up doing your best. You end up actually something breaks through, and you end up making something great, or something that you're really happy with. Or perhaps, you allow yourself to write that bad first draft, and then you give it some space, you come back to it, and you're actually oh, okay, I like this, and this part, and the rest can go. But the point is that you wrote that bad draft, and now you have something to work with. You didn't just think about it and then just wait a little bit longer and just never do anything, which is the death. That's the death of the artist. That is just, it's over before it's even had a chance to begin. So give yourself permission to be shit, and just decide that you're going to be the kind of person who does things, even if it's bad. And you don't always have to share your working out. You don't always have to share that process. But just be that person who's I'm not going to let it stop me. I'm not going to let the fear of not being good stop me. And that takes some willpower. But it goes a long way, okay? Willpower is powerful. That's why they call it willpower. Okay. And then the second mantra, this is pretty much similar. This is the same vein. But done is better than perfect. Done is better than perfect. The reason this is powerful is because emphasis on the done. Emphasis on the done. When something is done, we can move on. We can do the next thing. And being an artist, being a creative, being any kind of person who's putting themselves out into the world, it's every single thing that we do, every box that we tick, every brick in the wall is a step forward. And it might take you 100 before you ever do something that you're truly proud of or truly recognized for, or whatever it is that you want. But if you can just find some joy in that feeling of oh, I did another thing. I like my podcast, me putting an episode out. Oh, I did another episode. Well done me. It's up there. It's published. Start to just find glory in that. Really find that glory in done. And just leave perfect out of it, because there are so many people who don't do anything because they're so attached to being perfect, and it doesn't happen, and nothing ever happens. So just be in that category of people who do things. Often when we look at other people who we perceive to be doing such amazing, great things, and we're wow, they're so perfect. I can't do anything because I'm not that good. What I'm putting out is nowhere near what they're doing, and so why even bother? And that's something I feel all the time. I'll look at somebody online and how they're showing up and how just realized they are, and I look at myself and I'm I'm so less refined. And then I have to remind myself, how much longer they might have been doing it and how many more failed attempts they have, and how what I'm seeing is the refinement of many years. And I'm comparing myself to that. And this is something we hear a lot as artists. It's like, don't compare yourself to somebody's best day or somebody's, like somebody who's way further down the line than you. But it's so true. We need that reminder all the time that the only way you're ever going to have your version of that is by ticking those boxes, laying those bricks day by day, just putting the reps in. Like, done is better than perfect. Just get it done. And then move on. And you'll learn. And that's not the same as just being like really sloppy, because if you have a perfectionist part, like, your work is going to be of good quality. It's going to be of a certain quality. So now we're going to move into this like kind of deeper inner work side. Everything I do, I always approach the outer and the inner work. And what I have to say about the inner work of perfectionism is, well, you probably already know this, but I'm going to say it anyway. The reason you're feeling like everything has to be perfect is because you're afraid of something. You're afraid of it not being good enough, and you're afraid of what that means. One lens that I like to look at inner work, is through the lens of internal family systems. And so internal family systems is this therapeutic model that basically says we all have many parts within us that make up who we are. And that makes a lot of sense to me. And so, as I said before, you are not a perfectionist, but you have a perfectionist part. And the perfectionist part of you is doing what they're doing, stopping you, halting your progress for a good reason. They have a good reason that they are doing that. And the reason is they're trying to save you from pain. They're trying to save you from rejection. They're trying to save you from negative experiences that you might have had in the past when you were more free and when you expressed yourself in a more uncensored way. And so that perfectionist part has learned to stop you and put the brakes on because of pain, because of fear. So how do we deal with that? We don't just tell the perfectionist part, oh, go away, I hate you, because that perfectionist part is trying to look after us. So instead, go to that perfectionist part and appreciate them for their service. You can say like, thank you, I really appreciate you trying to save me from pain, And so this is the process of internal family systems, is taking yourself, your self energy, and giving that perfectionist part some appreciation, some attention. That alone will go a long way. You might find that part starts being a little bit less eager to to step in. You might find that. Or you might find that if you talk to that perfectionist part, you can really actually understand where they're coming from. They might start showing you memories. Like, remember when you did this and everyone laughed at you? Remember when you said this thing or were so proud of this piece of work, or you were so unguarded and then somebody just criticized you in such a tender place? And then that's when you can start doing really deep healing. You can start feeling those feelings of rejection, pain, fear in a safe way now, going back to those memories and healing them, releasing the pain of those times that those things happened. And this is how I do most of my inner work, is I will literally just journal out these memories, and I'll journal out these different parts. Like, I'll hear from the perfectionist part, and I'll ask the perfectionist part, like, why are you so afraid of me looking bad or being criticized? And those memories do come up, like, if you create space for them. And obviously, if this is gonna take you really deep, like, maybe work with a therapist, get some support. This is as deep as it goes, because our creativity is our life force, and most of us have had a certain amount of that life force like pinched off and shut down because of negative experiences. So if you want to work with your perfectionism, yes, you can go on the surface level, and it also helps to do that inner work of really healing the inner child, healing the parts of you that have been criticized, burnt, like ashamed, and all of that. One more thing I want to say about perfectionism is not only is your inner perfectionist protecting you, but they also have a lot to offer to the artistic process. And as I said at the start of the episode, I really feel like most great artists have an inner perfectionist. And so there's really nothing wrong with the fact that you have an inner perfectionist. Obviously, it gets to be a problem when that gets out of control, when it becomes like really hindering. But we're not trying to get rid of the perfectionism altogether, because perfectionism could just be rebranded as the desire for excellence, high standards, taste, high expectations. All of that is really good, really valuable, really important. And these things make us great. They make our work really good. There's a time and a place for that. So if you can find a way as well to really make peace with the fact that you have this inner perfectionist and start to see them as like an ally, like a really important part of the process, and maybe just explaining to that perfectionist, like, listen, we're gonna start off just kind of messing around, playing around, and then at some point I'm going to bring you in and you're going to edit and you're going to help refine and make this as good as it can be, and really like let the perfectionist know that they're valued. I feel like that is just a much like healthier way to deal with perfectionism than just to be like, oh, it's wrong, it's something I need to overcome, because there's no part of you that's wrong. It's just about finding a way for all of the parts of you within to work in harmony and to be able to achieve the things that you want to achieve and realize the visions that you have. So I hope all of that is helpful. And the last thing I'll say about perfectionism is that we as humans need other people. We need community. We need the experience of co-regulation. We can't do it all alone. And a lot of the time when perfectionism becomes overwhelming, it's actually quite simply because we don't have enough time with other real humans, or having a group experience where we're like okay to just be human and just be real and be in our process. And I really experienced the power of this on my degree, because after I had 3 gap years of like different things here and there, like basically feeling behind, feeling like overwhelmed and anxious a lot of the time about my creativity, when I got into a community and a structure that my degree was, coming in every week, sometimes multiple times a week, being in a group of other artists who are working towards their goals that were different from mine, but sharing that experience, being on that path together, that was so healing and so profound that after 3 years of that, I was completely transformed. I was just different on a cellular level. I had such a deeper sense of who I was as an artist and faith in myself to be able to bring that to, into reality, bring my ideas, my visions into reality. And then after, when I finished my degree, I really missed the that support. I missed that feeling of community and structure. And I was looking for it for a long time. I mean, we had the pandemic, everything, like, it was a crazy time. But ever since I finished my degree, I was looking for that kind of community and structure again. And then I created Cocoon, which is my course, my 6-week course for women. And I started to see the power of that community happening again. Although the course is only 6 weeks, so once that was finished, it was like the community was still there, but the structure was no longer there. And so that's why I created the bubble. And the bubble is a long-term community. It's an ongoing community membership, and it's for artists, creatives, entrepreneurs of any kind, any background. And the sole uniting factor is that everybody in that space is creating something. Everybody is on this path of realizing their dreams, realizing their visions. A lot of creative blocks, a lot of creative issues can be solved simply by showing up regularly and being part of a community and feeling held, feeling part of something, feeling like other people have got your back and other people are holding you accountable in a gentle and loving way. So I really encourage you to join the bubble if you're curious. Included in the membership, you have multiple workshops every month. You have work in progress circles where you will literally talk through what you're working on, share something, share a piece of what you're working on, and just receive feedback in a really intimate and safe setting. And then there are also on-demand resources. You can watch all the replays of the workshops that have already happened. There are meditations in there. There are exercises. So it's basically just designed to give you the structure and the community that I believe artists really need and really thrive with. So yeah, that is all I have for you for today. If you want to join the bubble, I'm going to put a link in the description of this episode, and you can use a code for 25% off. If you're listening in April or May 2025, you can use the code SPRING for 25% off your first month. So yeah, let me know what you thought of this episode. Send me a DM on Instagram at decafbubble, and I will speak to you soon in the next episode. Bye.